Jaya Nitya Lila Pravishnu Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotra Shada Shri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishnu Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotra Shada Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishnu Om Vishnupada Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishnu Om Vishnupada Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishnu Om Vishnupada Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Vaishnav Guru Varga Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Thakur Ki Jai Shri Caitanya Caritamrita Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol all glory assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glory assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glory assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga all glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Putale Srimati Radha Govinda Gosanti Namine Namaste Prabhupati Devam Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Brahmya Jana Nishtari. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, we're continuing today. We were discussing on Tuesday, we were discussing about how Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, they both tricked Mahaprabhu into coming to Advaita Acharya's house, where they're having some sumptuous and opulent prasadam. And then we discussed there was the further trick of trying to get Mahaprabhu to accept the bhog on the banana leaf plate. And then after that there was the fight, which is of course a very sweet pastime, in which Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu glorified each other strongly in the semblance of a fight. It was all joking. And at the very end of this fight, Sri Advaita Acharya, he had some rice thrown onto him by Nityananda Prabhu. And with that rice being thrown onto him, he said, now I've become ecstatic. I've become like you, you know. In mixed words, he was saying, I've become like you. I was a Brahmin before, but now I'm an Avadhut, above the rules and regulations. But even though the external form of his words seemed to indicate he was saying, you have dragged me down to your level as somebody who is rejecting Brahminical culture. Actually, he's saying, you have dragged me up to your level. You have pulled me up to the level of somebody who is beyond the rules and regulations of the Brahminical and Varnashram culture. And doing like this, throwing like this, we come to the point we reached. And then, so they're back and forth, they were fighting, and then Nityananda Prabhu, he would hear this, and he said, what you have said about me throwing these things onto you, these are the remnants of food left by Lord Krishna. This way you are speaking, it is blasphemous. If you take them to be ordinary remnants, you have committed an offense. So in return to Advaita Acharya's comment saying, you have thrown the remnants of your food at me, Nityananda Prabhu is saying these are transcendental remnants. These are not any remnants. These are the remnants of Krishna, and therefore you have offended them by saying this. We know that and Prabhupada says in the purport that one who considers Mahaprasad to be equal to ordinary rice and dal certainly commits a great offense. So the position of prasadam is very, very high. It's very, very elevated. And there's a few pastimes that illustrate this. The one which is told after Maharaj Yudhishthira completed the Rajasuya sacrifice. He told Krishna, he said, you know, I've assembled all of the Brahmins and I've assembled all the Vaishnavas together. And like this, I am bringing them all together and I'm trying to please them. And so I'm trying to please them by distributing prasadam to them. So each and every one of them I'm trying to satisfy. And he said, but how can I know? Krishna, you are having so many devotees, and there are so many Brahmins. How will I know that I have pleased every single one of them? And Krishna says, it's fine. Here, I have a conch, and he gave him the conch shell, and he said, when all of my devotees and all the Brahmins are pleased, then this conch shell, it'll make a very loud sound. You will know it when it happens. You will know you have pleased every single devotee of mine and every single Brahmin in the kingdom. So, like this, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he went along and he had all the festivities. Of course, it's very fortunate, it's very auspicious to feed the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas at any day, especially after a yagya. So, doing like this, he had them all together and he fed them all. And by the end of the day, when he thought he had fed everyone, he was waiting for the conch shell to sound. But it did not sound, it remained silent. And remaining silent, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he became very confused and he told Krishna, he said, Krishna, I fed all the Vaishnavas, I fed all the Brahmins, I gave them all your glorious Mahaprasad, so why then is this conch shell not resonating any sound? And Krishna said, you have actually missed one of my devotees. You are very close, you got all of them, but you have missed one. And then Maharaj Yudhishthira said, well, surely then I'll find this devotee and I will make sure that I please him. And then so he says, but where can I find this devotee? I've looked all around, all within the walls of my kingdom, and I could not find any other devotee than the ones I've already brought together. So where can I find this Vaishnav? And Krishna says, the reason why you could not find this Vaishnav, the reason why you could not find this devotee, was he was actually an outcast. He is not even within Varnashram. He is an outcast outside of society, and he is even outside the walls. He is merely in a simple, very primitive hut outside of the walls of your kingdom, and therefore you are not able to find him. So please go out and find this devotee. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he becomes very nervous, very anxious, very eager to find this devotee so that he may please him. And so he sends Arjuna and Bhim out. And they go and look, and eventually they find a hut. And they find this very simple, very clearly belonging to an outcast sort of element of society person. And seeing him, they come towards him. And him seeing them, he becomes very shocked, thinking, this is Arjuna, this is Bhim, these are not any insignificant people. Why are they coming out? And they go out and they say, we are representing the king, we are representing Maharaj Yudhishthira. And instantly he begins to fall down and he says, why are you doing this? This is such an inappropriate affair. You could have sent some representative, some messenger out. Why did you yourselves come? This is not, I don't know what's going on. You could have sent anyone else, but you yourself personally have come. This is such a great fortune for me. And so he began to worship them. And worshipping them, they began to say, no, we came for a specific reason. Maharaj Yudhishthira, he asked us to come out here. And he has asked us to come out here for the purpose of inviting you to have prasadam in the great hall, in the great kingly hall, where all of the other Brahmins and Vaishnavas, where they were honoring prasadam. And saying like this, again, the outcast, he becomes very embarrassed, and he says, oh, it's fine, you do not need to take me to the place where all these elevated people are. I'm a simple outcast person. Merely every day, merely every time a meal was finished, the banana leaf and the whatever remnants were left, they were thrown outside. And so I found whatever grains of rice I could, whatever crumbs were remaining, and I ate those ones. So like that, I've already had the Mahaprasad. It is all right. You do not need for me to go there. I've already tasted some. I've tasted it very nicely. It's not proper for me to go. But Arjun and Bhim, they say, no, we're very intent on making sure you come. Maharaj Yudhishthira has asked us to do this, so we will do it. And so then, reluctantly, the outcast man, he follows them. And he receives very opulent worship. He's worshipped very nicely by all of the devotees and so on and so forth as he enters into the prasadam hall. And again, he's very nervous. He's very out of place, a fish out of water. He doesn't know what he's doing, surrounded by all this opulence after living his whole life as an outcast. And like this, all of this is happening, and he's very much out of his element. And then finally, the prasadam is presented to him. And Draupadi, she has made very many nice types of preparations, all of the various flavors, astringent, bitter, sweet, sour, all the various rasas of food that exist. All of them are present in the assortments that she has made for him. And he sees this wonderful, opulent feast. Again, we were speaking last time we were hearing about Advaita Acharya's great feast. It would have been something along the lines of that. Something very nice, so many different varieties. And this outcast, seeing it, he saw it all, and he took each item and he mixed it all together into one big sort of collection. The sweet was mixed in with the dal, which was mixed in with the rice, which was mixed in with all the sabjis. Everything was mixed together, and he stirred it all up into one complete, like there was probably khichdi there as well, but he created a new type of khichdi then, mixing all of these things together. And mixing them all together, this completely absurd collection of all of the prasad was there. And Draupadi, seeing this, she thought, well, he really is an outcast, you know. I've taken him here into this cultured place, and he's eating, honoring the Mahaprasad like this, stirring it together. And she thought this thought, and then she just went off. She didn't even want to see it. She thought, oh, I don't want to see what he's doing. And like that, he ate every single bit. He honored the whole feast like that. And then he left, and Maharaj Yudhishthira thought, finally, now I've pleased all of the devotees. Now I've pleased all the Vaishnavas, I've pleased all the Brahmins. And so he waited, and then the conch shell, it did not sound. There was no sound coming from it. And so he thought, well, maybe, you know, there's a little bit of a delay, maybe a technical issue. I'll wait a little longer. And he waits a little longer and longer and longer, and still the conch shell does not sound. Until at one point he goes to Krishna and he says, Krishna, look, it's not sounding. I fed that last Vaishnav. You told me there was only one left, and I fed him. And then Krishna said, I told you it would sound when all the Vaishnavas have been pleased. He said, surely somebody must have made an offense while the prasadam was being offered. And so Maharaj Yudhishthira, he thought, oh no, now another thing has gone wrong. So he went and he was asking everyone. He said, have you offended this devotee? Have you offended this devotee? Have you offended any devotee? And everyone said, no. Like, this is a very basic idea. We do not say anything offensive to the Vaishnavas. So we have not done. But Draupadi, she remained quiet. She did not really say anything. And because of her silence, it became apparent to everyone that she had offended him. And like this, she said, okay, I'm sorry, I offended him, but I had to think it. I put so much time and effort into making all these beautiful preparations, and he put all my time and effort, and he stirred it up into some big mixture. And then he ate it like that, completely uncivilized. How could I tolerate seeing that? It was very hurtful for me to see, and it was very frustrating. So much time and effort I put in. So I thought this thing. And so Krishna, he said, bring back this person. And obviously, not just Krishna, but Maharaj Yudhishthira and everyone else, we must beg for forgiveness for this offense we have made. Forget about normal offenses. This is an offense we made to someone we were trying to be hospitable to. We were trying to show hospitality to him, and instead we have offended him. So bring him back. And so the outcast, he was brought back in. And again, he was confused. He thought, why am I being brought in again? I just want to be in my hut outside. This is too opulent for me. Again, because he's a devotee. He's not hankering for opulence. He merely wants whatever he's given. So he's thinking, why have you brought me back? And Draupadi, she asked, she says, I put so much time and effort. I made this wonderful thing for you. And why did you mix it in? Why did you stir it in and make this sort of this collection of all my preparations? And he said, oh, it's very simple. I do that with everything. Every single prasad that I receive, every single mahaprasad, I will always stir it together. And I'll always stir it and I'll eat it like that. And then they said, but why? We didn't ask you that you do it. We saw that you did it. Why do you do it? And he said, the reason why is because this prasad, it is not here for me to taste and for me to enjoy. Krishna, he has tasted it and he has enjoyed it. If I eat all the separate items separately, then maybe I will take one part and I'll say, oh, this is very nice. But then I'll take another part and say, this one is a little not so nice. I will take one part and I'll say, this is very good. I'll take another part and I'll be like, oh, this is very too much salt, turn down the salt. This is too spicy, this is not spicy enough. I will think all these things. But when I do like this and it is all mixed together, it helps me remind myself that actually the whole point of this is I am receiving the merciful remnants of Krishna. Not that I am here to enjoy all these preparations. Krishna has enjoyed them and that is their purpose. I am merely here to receive the remnants of that mercy. And like this, hearing this conception, everyone was completely astounded that this person has fully understood the Vaishnav conception of Mahaprasad. And therefore they worshipped him and begged him for forgiveness. And of course, being a merciful Vaishnav, he said, okay, it's all right, just let me go back. And so he went back and the aparad was forgiven. And at that very moment where he said it's all right, the conch shell, it blew very loudly, and a very melodious sound resonated out from it. And at that point, all the devotees, all the Vaishnavas in the kingdom, they had been satisfied. So from here we see the great conception from this devotee's mouth, the great conception that prasadam must have. We must really understand it so that we do not offend it. And there are many offenses that people will make approaching prasadam. Of course, it is not necessarily an offense if you do not stir it in altogether, but still it is reflecting the elevated mindset. Again, Prabhupada writes here, Mahaprasad should not be considered equal to ordinary rice and dal. It is not that we approach Mahaprasad as we do approach sometimes when we see rice or dal that has not been offered. It is a completely different mindset. And this is again reflected in that devotee. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes that in Jagannath Puri, because we know Bhaktivinoda Thakur spent a lot of his life in Jagannath Puri, he said, in Jagannath Puri, we will go to many of the temples in this area. And going into the temples, we will hear them say things like, the Mahaprasad must be honored in the temple. Then in other temples, they'll say the Mahaprasad must be honored within the campus of the temple. Then other people will say Mahaprasad should be honored at least within 10-50 meters from the entry of the temple. And people will go on and give all these regulations. And they'll say, if you do not do like this, it is no longer prasad. It is no longer prasad. Now you are no longer honoring prasadam. And so they will say like this. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we hear all sorts of things from the Smarta Brahmins. We were talking about those who obsess with the rules and regulations. And what we can also see, we hear all of these things. We hear what they are saying, explaining the restrictions and regulations around what makes Mahaprasad, how Mahaprasad may be limited. We hear all these things, but what we see while hearing those things are all of the judgments and punishments that Bhagavan, Krishna, has put upon the people who are saying these things. All of the great punishments, all of the condition of their culture has so much decreased. Why? Because this is an offense against the Mahaprasad. They have limited it and they have reduced it to material factors. Mahaprasad is transcendental, and therefore one should not offend it. And so he says a great amount of the fact that a lot of the Brahminical members in the world have fallen down was because of their offense towards Mahaprasad. Because Mahaprasad, it is the devotion, we read in the Nectar of Instruction and in every single Shastra and Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, that the devotees are the most beloved to Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes elsewhere that Mahaprasad most strongly personifies the heart of the devotee. Because different spiritualists, they'll have different conceptions when they approach Bhagavan, when they approach Krishna. They'll have different ideas. They'll have rational ideas. They will approach with philosophy. God is the original cause of everything, which is good. It's not necessarily bad. They will arise with different ideas of piety, of morality, all these different approaches. And each one is better than the last one. We know the Jnani is higher than the Karma Kandi. And then we know, of course, the devotee is higher than them. But the highest of devotees is the devotee, again, who is, abandoning all other conceptions. When their devotion, when their love begins to overrule even their rational notions. Not that devotion is irrational, but that it is beyond rationality. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says then that the rational, intellectual approach to Krishna, the rational, intellectual approach makes us think that Krishna, that God, he could not have mercy on a person who has done so many terrible things. But when love, when devotion conquers that rationality, we realize that he is Patita Pavana, that he has mercy for me, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense, even though it is a hoituki. He says, when rationality rules, we will think, Krishna, he cannot be upset, he cannot be disturbed by anything. But when bhakti rules, when bhakti conquers even rationality, then we begin to think, no, Krishna is crying. Krishna is upset, and I must satisfy his upsetness. I must try to appease him. When rationality rules, it makes people think that God doesn't need to eat anything. But when bhakti rules, then it makes us think, no, I must feed Krishna, because that love is coming out. And then so he says like this, and he says prasadam there, the offering of bhoga, which then becomes prasadam. That offering embodies the Vaishnava attitude. Because these philosophical ideas, of course we know there's a philosophy about why we should offer bhoga, but all these philosophical approaches which makes us think of a God who is not interacting, who is not doing much, he is just staying there all powerful, it gets washed away by the love of the Vaishnava, who thinks only that I should offer to Krishna because he wants to eat. And then of course Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he finishes and he says, by eating this, of course, Krishna, he does not eat the food. He eats the devotion that is present in the bhoga, and then he mercifully leaves the remnants. So, like this, prasadam is a testimony to the Vaishnava attitude, the Vaishnava approach, and therefore it embodies devotional sentiments, and therefore it is having such an elevated position. We also know there's another pastime of Narad Muni. Narad Muni, he was traveling around as Narad Muni does, and at this time Uddhav Gita was being spoken. And Uddhava, he was speaking the glories of prasadam. We know, he says in 11th canto. He speaks about the various things which are very blessed, which are very fortunate for one to participate in, honoring the Vaishnavas, so on and so forth. And one of them that he mentions is honoring the remnants of Krishna. And so Narad Muni, he hears this and he thinks, you know, I'm a very great devotee. I've been practicing devotional life for a long while. But I've never heard the glories of this Mahaprasad. I've not heard, how has Krishna has cheated me, you know. For some reason, maybe he has hidden away this prasadam from me. For some reason, he has not told me about it. For some reason, he has not given it to me. And so Narad, he thinks, okay, I will get this prasad. So he thinks, if it's the remnants of Krishna, then I will go to Vaikuntha. And he goes to Vaikuntha, and there he meets Lakshmi. And he speaks to Lakshmi, and he says, you know, Lakshmi, a while ago I pleased you a lot, and you promised me a boon. Anything you want, you will give to me. Any boon, anything that is in your capability, you will give to me. Now I'm asking you, please, can you fulfill this boon? Can you please give me some Mahaprasad? Some Mahaprasad from Vishnu. And so Lakshmi, she hears this, and she thinks, well, I have to. I promised him. But she tells him, she says, look, I don't know if I can, because my understanding is this Mahaprasad that is so worshipable, it is so high, that it cannot be given out to anyone. It cannot be given out freely. So, probably not. I'll try my best, you know. So then she goes, and she approaches. And approaching him, she begins to speak, and she says, I have a request. But there is fear in her voice. And so it's asked, why are you afraid? Why is there fear? Something sounds different about you. And the Sudarshan Chakra, it speaks and it says, there is fear because she is coming on the request of Narad Muni. It completely ruins the whole attempt to try and get the Mahaprasad incognito, hidden. So then he says, well, what's the problem? Why are you afraid? She says, well, I told him you wouldn't be able to give it freely. I told him it's very elevated. You can't give it to anyone. And then he says, you've said incorrectly. Here, take some Mahaprasad. And so he gives a lot of Mahaprasad very nicely, and he gives it to Lakshmi, and she takes it, and she says, okay, now she's happy. She's thinking, my tension, I created some idea in my head incorrectly, but now I know the correct conception, and so she brings it to Narad. And Narad, he devours it. He eats it all up, something we can all empathize with. And he completely consumes it all. And after finishing it, he's completely ecstatic. He says, this Mahaprasad, before I honored it, it was more beautiful than 10 million cupids. It was more effulgent than 10 million suns. This was so amazing. Now I understand why Uddhav, he has glorified it. And so, like this, he thinks, and then he goes, very ecstatic, very effulgent. He's quite clearly experiencing a greater bliss than he even normally is. And so after that, he goes to Kailash to tell Shiva. He wants to, maybe in a transcendental way, not brag, but explain the glories of what he's just seen. And he goes to Shiva and and Shiva, he doesn't even wait for Narad Muni to say a word. He says, you're looking so effulgent. You're looking so wonderful. You're looking so ecstatic. What has done this? What has made you so ecstatic, so beautiful like you are right now? And then Narad Muni, he says, you wouldn't believe it. I managed to get some Mahaprasad, and I was able to honor it. And honoring it, I feel so ecstatic. This is the greatest thing. And at this moment, Shiva becomes very angry. And Shiva says, what sort of person are you? You've received some Mahaprasad and you did not share with me. This is another thing we can empathize with. He says, you did not share any of this Mahaprasad with me. I was so, this is such a great fortune. And you had it all by yourself. This is so selfish. How could you do this? And Narad Muni, then he says, he thinks, oh, actually, he's right. I should have saved some from him if I knew I was going to go after. But then he thinks, actually, under my fingernail, because he ate with his hands, it was Vedic, there wasn't spoons or anything, he has some prasad left under his fingernail. And he thinks, oh, actually, I hate to say it, but I still have some Mahaprasad under my fingernails if you would like. I didn't clean my hands properly before I came here. And then Shiva, without even thinking a second, he instantly grabs it, he takes all the crumbs out and he honors them. And like that, he too became ecstatic. And he became so filled with ecstasy. So much was he filled with ecstasy and joy that he began dancing. And dancing out of devotion to the Supreme Lord is not something that is alien to Shiva. But this time it was different, because he was empowered with that prasadam. He was so filled with ecstasy that he was dancing and dancing and dancing. And with this dancing, it said that all of the planetary systems became lower, lower, lower. Normally there's 3 distinctions. They all became the lower planets. They all became the lower planetary systems, because everything began to sink down, down, down from the weight of his dancing. Dancing like this, Bhudevi, she was crying, thinking, I cannot physically sustain the amount of force, the impact of his feet dancing. I will crack open. All of the 4 elephants holding down Bhumandal, they began to cry in pain about how severe it was, this weight, the pressure of Shiva dancing. It was said that even at the dissolution, the dancing was not so vigorous, so intense as it was at that point. And so Shiva was dancing, 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 and everyone became so concerned. They thought, this is it, this time after the dissolution, there might not be another creation. Shiva, he's so intensely dancing in ecstasy. And so they tell Parvati, they say, okay, you have to stop this. And so she goes, and she speaks very heavy words. Shiva, he gets broken out of his meditation, and he realizes, and he says, hey, why did you say such bad things to me? That's really, that's hurtful, and that's not really nice to do. And she said, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, you are the greatest of Vaishnavas. I shouldn't have said it, but, in your ecstasy that you were tasting after eating this prasadam, you nearly destroyed the whole universe. And not just this universe, you nearly destroyed everyone. You were so ecstatic. And then he said, oh, okay, that's fine. I understand why you've done it. Again, I will forgive you. No problem, no hard feelings. And then she said, but now I'm seeing you were so ecstatic, and I'm still seeing you are so golden, so nice, so effulgent by doing what you did. How is it that you tasted this? Normally you dance and you don't destroy everything. You will dance in tasting devotion, being a Vaishnava, and you'll be happy, but you will not risk destroying everything. Why was it different this time? And so Shiva, he says, well, this time, Narad Muni, and he said the whole story. Narad Muni went to Vaikuntha, he got the prasad, I ate it from his nails, and he said, and because of this, I was very blessed and I was able to honor prasadam. And then she becomes very upset. And she says, you got angry at him because he did not give you any prasad, because he did not save you any? There was not just one crumb under his fingernails, there were many. So, because of this, you did not save even a single crumb for me? And then, like this, Shiva said, oh, I did not save a crumb because I am Vaishnav Manam Yata Sambhu, like I'm the greatest of Vaishnavas. You're maybe not so qualified. You heard what Lakshmi said, that it's not to be distributed so freely out to everyone. And hearing this, well, she got a little upset, she got a little angry, and she was saying, this is nonsense. What are you saying? This is the complete wrong conception. Vishnu himself said that it's fine to be distributed, but you're saying like this? You're saying this absurd thing? So she said, I am a Vaishnavi, just as much as you are a Vaishnava, and so I will pray. And she prays intensely. And praying like this, she prays constantly, and she prays and she says, I pray that Mahaprasad should be available to everyone. And praying like this, Vishnu, he hears, and he says, well, you're a Vaishnava, I am bound by you. Surely I must do what you say. And so hearing this, he says, okay, it is fine. So from now on, I will make it sure that it is an injunction, that the devotees will be distributing prasadam, that Mahaprasad is to be honored and is to be had by anyone, by no distinction. Mahaprasad, it is the great mercy, and it is a mercy for everyone. And so he gave her Mahaprasad, and he said, and now because of your potency, everyone will also be eligible to taste Mahaprasad. So saying like this, we understand again, this is the very elevated position of prasadam. It's said elsewhere in the Narada Pancharatra that the Panchatantra, the Narada Panchatantra, it's said that one is to be considered a jivan mukta. One is to be considered liberated already in their body if they merely have the remnants of prasadam from the spiritual master. So like this, we understand prasadam is very, very elevated. And therefore, Nityananda Prabhu, he spent a while to clarify that, but Nityananda Prabhu says there are, he said you should not consider these to be ordinary things. This is Mahaprasad, a great mercy. And then he said, if you invite at least 100 sannyasis to your home and feed them sumptuously, your offense will be nullified. By doing this, you will obtain some qualification, you will obtain some sort of redemption for this offense you've done against Mahaprasad. Again, it's a joke. And then Advaitacharya again, he replies jokingly and says, I shall never again invite another sannyasi, for it is a sannyasi who has spoiled all my Brahminical smriti regulations. Again, it's the same point. He has spoiled them by making him more so elevated that he is beyond their platform. And then like this, they took prasad. And taking prasad, they finished. And after this, all of the local residents, they began to see that Mahaprabhu, he was there. And they began to be very excited seeing this. And like this, they came, and suddenly all the people began to loudly shout, Hari Hari, and they began struck with wonder. And seeing his body, everyone came, and seeing this, they all were very excited. And in their excitement, Advaita Acharya then decides later on to begin the kirtan. And singing in the kirtan, he's saying, my dear friends, what shall I say? Today I have received the highest transcendental pleasure. After many, many days, Lord Krishna is in my house. Very excited to see Krishna arrive. And like that, there was a very sweet Sankirtan party. And then, while dancing, Advaita Acharya, he would sometimes turn around and catch the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Advaita Acharya would speak then to him as follows. Many days you escaped me by bluffing. Now I have you in my home, and I will keep you bound up. This is the correct attitude of kirtan here. Because kirtan, we know it's a very focal thing. We're constantly engaged in kirtan. And for a right reason. It is the yuga dharma. But we see here a demonstration of the correct conception in kirtan. This was a very sweet kirtan. Mahaprabhu, we will read a little bit later, he showed all the signs of ecstasy. He was very ecstatic in this kirtan. So it is giving very high things. But we see again that things must be approached with the correct mindset. We see Advaita Acharya leading this kirtan. He does it, why? He does it so that he can catch the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so he can say, I will keep you bound up. We know the theme of binding the Lord, binding him up. It's very central, especially in the Kartik month. We say it's the Damodar month. Actually, in the Shastras, more often the month is actually said to focus on Radharani. The Vrata is actually said to be the focal point is Radharani. Because if we are celebrating Damodar, that Lord who is bound up, what is the great glory in that pastime? Yes, it's the Lord, but the great glory of it is that it is the Lord bound up by his devotees. bound up by that devotion. And as we know, no devotee bounds up Krishna more in the ropes of love more than Srimati Radharani. That's not to say that not only Radharani does. Actually, this Damodar pastime, even though we, for good reason, with lots of precedents, focus mainly on when Jashodama tied Krishna up, there's actually Damodar pastimes in all the various rasas, not just in the parental Vatsalya ras. In the Sakhya ras, it's often said that when Krishna, when he would be with his cowherd friends, sometimes he would steal the prasadam of the other boys, and they would engage in games. So they would see Krishna's prasadam, and they would say, "Oh, this is very nice," and they would steal Krishna's prasadam. And in Krishna, he would steal theirs as well. And like this, they would play. But at one point, they thought, Krishna, the food that he is eating. Oh, it's very, very nice. Jashodama, she really pours her heart out. Such sweet, nice preparations he's getting every day. Krishna, he's eating them all the time. But us, we don't really get to try it. He's always eating them, always protecting them so that we don't steal it. All the time we're seeing this and we think, maybe it's our turn. He's getting this every day. Maybe he's not realizing what he's missing out on. But we realize what we're missing out on. And so sometimes, one day, Krishna, while he is getting ready to eat, with all his friends, what Jashodama has lovingly packed for him, the friends, they see him, and they see, okay, and Krishna thinks, where are all my friends gone? They're not here right now. And so they're all waiting and waiting. And as he sits down and begins to prepare, they come out with these long sort of vines, which they found in the forests. And they tie Krishna up. And tying him up before he can eat anything, they tie him up fully, and they take the food, and they throw the food among themselves, and they all distribute it, and they all eat it in front of Krishna, who is bound up in these vines. And in this sense, there is also a Damodar pastime in the Sakhya ras among the cowherd boys. And of course, in the Madhurya ras, we know often that the gopis and Krishna, they would do like play weddings. They would, we know in Vedic weddings, the clothes, they tie the clothes together in a knot. So they would do this as a joke. It's not to be considered an actual wedding, but playfully. They would Krishna would take his dhoti or something, and they would take their sari, and they would tie it together. And with this tying, there's again, it is the binding. It is a rope being tied. So this theme, this idea of Krishna being bound by his devotees is found throughout all rasas. Krishna is bound by his devotees. And to bind Krishna in love, that is the central focal point. This kirtan, it is to be done. Kirtan means to glorify Krishna. And even more, it means the best glorification one can do is to please Krishna. It is not that kirtan is done to please oneself. Gaur Govinda Maharaj would always say that when you chant in kirtan, are you doing it for Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pleasure, or are you doing it for your own pleasure? It is done in order to please Krishna. And it is done with this conception of a glorification. And so, done like this is the proper way, because this is the way, again, as Advaita Acharya says, that one can bind the Lord and keep him constantly within one's house or within one's heart. People, sometimes they will do kirtan for other reasons. Maybe they'll do it because they like the music or something. But that is not the proper conception, the proper mood of kirtan. That is the importance of studying Shastra. It is said in some commentaries that Bhagavad Purana, another name for it is Nam Purana. The whole point of Bhagavatam is it helps us understand the point and purpose of the holy names. The point and purpose of the holy names is illuminated in Bhagavatam. But how can that be? Bhagavatam is not always discussing the Nam Tattva. It's discussing other topics as well. But the thing is, kirtan, when it is to be done, again it is glorification. And one cannot glorify someone they don't know about. One cannot glorify someone that they don't know the qualities of, that they don't know if they're just saying the name Krishna, but no one is coming to their mind, they are not thinking, who is that Krishna, then they will get some benefit, but that is not that deeper point of kirtan, that meditation of pleasing the Lord, of thinking of the Lord's sweetness. Keshavananda Prabhu, he always says, before one engages in japa, or before one engages in kirtan, it is good to have some time to read Krishna book constantly, so that one is becoming more and more familiar with who this Krishna, that the Krishna kirtan is about, is. Because if one is doing kirtan, if one is attempting to do kirtan, and they do not know the qualities of Krishna or who Krishna is, obviously they cannot extensively know them, but if they know none of them or are not trying to familiarize themselves with them, then what are they glorifying? You cannot glorify someone you don't know. So all that ends up being the focal point of the glorification is what they do know, which is musical ability, or the people listening to them, or all these other things. It goes from being Krishna Kirtan to being a Kirtan of oneself. One is meditating about the music, one is meditating, and of course Kirtan isn't just musical. Also speaking, Krishna Katha is Kirtan, preaching is Kirtan, book distribution is Kirtan. So, all of these things are Kirtan, and until and unless it is done with a proper focal point of service to Krishna, it is done as a point of service to whatever's left, if one does not have the proper conception. And what is left is oneself. And therefore, it is not fully deep. So again, the central point is to be desirous, like Advaita Acharya said he was during this kirtan, that the Lord can come into my house. It is to be desirous to have the Lord come into one's heart, to have the Lord come to one, to feel that feeling of separation, to feel that I want to come closer to Krishna. That is the point of kirtan, to glorify that Krishna, to understand that Krishna further, again, as Advaita Acharya was saying. And then when that Krishna comes, to develop, we should hunger to have that devotion which can tie the Lord up, not because we want to be sovereign over the Lord. Krishna says, Ye yatham mam prapadyante. If we approach Krishna with the idea that I want to control him, that I want to lord it over him, Krishna will respond with that same attitude as well. And if Krishna wants to control you and you want to control Krishna, Krishna wins that little conflict. But if one approaches wanting that devotion because they want Krishna, and therefore to be able to bind the Lord so that he does not leave one's heart, if one approaches that with a surrendered mood, then one enters deeper into the purpose of kirtan and of one's spiritual life in general. And so here we are finding an embodiment of the correct moods. A role, an example is given for how it should be done. So, like this is happening, and Mahaprabhu, he is becoming very ecstatic. I was going to talk about Sachimata, but I think we're wrapping up now. So, yeah. So then tomorrow we'll begin talking about Sachimata, and we'll discuss the glories of Jagannath Puri Dham. Okay. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Thakur ki jai. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namo Vishnu.